The knock hit our door like a verdict, 3 hard raps that didn't belong to the mountain. I was still holding my coffee when Alice's laptop froze mid-sentence, her face lit by that pale screen glow and the spinning circle that means our internet is about to vanish. On the tinny speakers, a woman's voice from somewhere in Maine kept saying, "Alice? Don't hang up, please," and then the line snapped into silence.
Outside, the wind snowed snow against the windows, and the first time in the months, our quiet life wasn't quiet anymore. I'm talking to you like this because I know what you are thinking. What kind of man pushes 18 and still shows the heart to run? I am Jack, 79.
40 years in steel, and my chest has that familiar stubborn ache that comes and goes like bad weather. Alice is 77, straight-backed, sharp-eyed, the kind of woman who can calm a room just by breathing slower. We live off-grid in the mountains of Montana. A woodpile taller than me, a cast-iron stove that eats logs like hunger, a generator that hates cold mornings, and a garden that fights for every inch of summer. We chose this life together after watching too many friends get placed somewhere clean and bright where nobody has to smell the medicine carts. We wanted to age where the air is honest and the nights are dark enough to see your life laid out like stars. But here's the part most people don't expect. We aren't hiding from the world. Some days, the world is sitting right at our kitchen table asking for help. It started small. A neighbor down the valley asked Alice to look at a blood pressure log. Then a cousin of a cousin called after an urgent care visit. Alice would listen, ask questions, tell them what to watch, when to call a doctor, what not to ignore. She never pretended to be a hospital. She just did what good nurses do, translate fear into steps. When I finally got her a used laptop and a cheap microphone, she tried one short video on YouTube, simple things to check before you panic. The next week, 3 strangers asked if she could just talk for 5 minutes. Now, every few days, Alice turns our kitchen into a clinic without walls. She sits with a mug of chamomile, reading names on a handwritten schedule taped to the cabinet. Marlene, Maine. Calvin, Tucson. Irene, Manchester, UK. Sometimes it's about pills and dizziness. Sometimes it's just, tell me I'm not crazy for being scared at night. I'm usually in the background, stacking wood, fixing the antenna, pretending I'm not listening while I listen anyway. Because the truth is, those voices keep our home warm in a way the stove can't. And I'll tell you something else, since you're here with me, there's a romance to this life that doesn't look like movies. It's not champagne. It's Alice leaving her gloves by the door so I won't forget mine. It's me sharpening her splitting maul because she likes doing it herself. It's the way she reaches for my wrist when I climb the steps too fast, like she's holding time back with 2 fingers. We've been together long enough to know love isn't a feeling you wait for. It's a choice you make again and again, especially when nobody's applauding. That night, the choice came hard and quick. The storm rolled in early, heavy and mean. The signal started coughing. Alice had just gotten Marlene on the call. Marlene with the soft voice and the tremor in her hands, the one who keeps her husband's chair at the table even though he's been gone 3 years. Marlene was saying she'd missed a dose, that her chest felt funny, that her daughter told her again she should just move into a facility. Alice's eyes narrowed, listening for the words under the words. Then the screen froze. Marlene's face stuck mid-blink. A spinning circle. Nothing. Alice swallowed. No, she said, not loud like she was talking to the storm itself. She tried to reconnect. She tried the backup hotspot. The little bars dropped to 1, then none. When a man's life has taught him anything, it's that there are moments you can't muscle through. You either accept the limit, or you find another way around it. I had an internal fight right there at the table. The old part of me wanted to say, honey, we can't save everybody. It's not our job. The newer part, the part Alice had rubbed into me over decades, knew that wasn't the point. The point was, if you can steady one person, you do. If you can start a chain that reaches farther than you start it. I looked at Alice's hands, still poised over the keyboard like she could type her way through a blizzard. I chose action over comfort. Use the list, I said. The phone tree. Her head snapped up. We'd built it quietly over months. Numbers of a few regulars who weren't fragile, who had neighbors who knew how to call local services. Not heroes. Just people. Alice nodded once, fierce, and grabbed the old notebook. She started sending short messages through whatever signal we had left. Marlene in Maine, check on her. If she doesn't answer, call your county line. Calvin, if you're online, can you reach Irene? My job was the unglamorous part. Keep the generator alive, keep the antenna pointed, keep my own voice steady so hers could stay calm. That's when the knocking came again. I opened the door a crack and the cold slapped me hard. A kid stood there, tall, thin, snow in his hair, a backpack strap dug into his shoulder. He wasn't dressed for this mountain. City sneakers, a hoodie, hands red with cold. His eyes flicked past me to the laptop, to Alice, to the light in our cabin like it was a lighthouse. "Are you Alice Reed?" he asked, voice shaking. Alice rose slowly, like she was approaching a frightened animal. "Yes," she said. The kid swallowed. "I watched your videos. I didn't know where else to go." His gaze dropped to the floorboards. "My name is Noah. And I think I'm your grandson." For a second, the storm sound dropped out of my head, and all I could hear was the quiet thud of my own heart. Tired, stubborn, still working. Alice didn't cry. She just went pale like someone had turned the lights down inside her. And behind us, the laptop chimed once, one single notification slipping through the blizzard. Not from Noah. From Marlene's number. The message was only 3 words, "Alice, I'm scared." I stood there with the door open, thinking about the easy choice. Shut it, keep the storm outside, protect the small life we'd built. Then I looked at Alice and I remembered what this cabin really is. Not an escape, but a promise. Behind Noah's eyes was the same fear I'd heard in Marlene's voice. And I knew the mountain had just handed us a new patient. I found the bus ticket in Noah's pocket while he slept, crumpled, damp at the edges, stamped Bozeman like a bruise. Next to it was a torn corner of notebook paper with our address written in blocky ink. Not a phone number. Not Grandma. Just a set of directions and one word underlined twice, Alice. That's how the second day began in our cabin. Me holding proof that the boy on our couch hadn't arrived by accident, and Alice standing at the stove, stirring oatmeal she barely tasted. You might think a man my age has seen every kind of trouble. I worked steel. I walked picket lines. I watched bosses smile while they cut men's hours. I've seen hunger, pride, and the quiet way people fall apart. But I had never seen a 17-year-old show up out of a blizzard and call my wife by name like she was the last safe thing left in America. I'm Jack, 79, stubborn as a fence post. And if you're listening, I'm talking to you the way I'd talk to a buddy at the hardware store. Straight, no fancy language. Because this isn't a fairy tale about sweet grandparents in the mountains. This is about what happens when your quiet life gets interrupted by someone else's storm. Noah woke late. The heater had been running all night and the air smelled like pine smoke and wet wool. He sat up fast as if he expected to be yelled at. His eyes went first to the door, then to his backpack, then to Alice. When she handed him a mug of cocoa, he flinched like kindness was a trick. "Where's your mom?" Alice asked softly. He stared at the steam. "Working. Always working." "And your dad?" I said, keeping my voice level. A shrug. "He's around. Just not for us." That shrug hit Alice harder than any sentence. I saw it in her shoulders, the way she held herself too still. For a moment she looked like a nurse bracing for bad news she already knows is coming. We gave him rules without making a show of it. No wandering in the dark. No touching my tools. If you go outside, you tell one of us. If you're hungry, you say so. Simple boundaries, because boys his age pretend they don't need them, but they do. Then the real question sat between us like an unwashed dish. Was he telling the truth? Alice didn't ask for proof. That's her nature. She listens first, judges later. Me, I'm built the other way. I wanted something solid. A date. A name. A reason. We spent that morning doing what we always do after a storm. Checking lines, clearing the porch, making sure the generator hadn't frozen. Noah followed me out, trying to look useful. He took the shovel without being told. His hands weren't soft. They were young, but they had blisters, fresh ones like he'd been gripping life too hard. "You watch Alice's videos?" I asked. He nodded, still shoveling. "My mom leaves her phone on the counter. One day I heard her listening. She didn't know I was there. And?" I pressed. "She was crying," he said like the word embarrassed him. "Your wife was talking to some old guy in Arizona about his pills and, I don't know. It sounded like somebody actually cared if he made it to morning." Alice heard that from the doorway. Her mouth tightened, not in anger, more like she was trying to keep something from spilling out. Inside, once the internet limped back, Alice checked her messages. Marlene from Maine was okay. Someone on the phone tree had called her neighbor. The clinic had survived the night, held together by strings and strangers. Alice looked relieved, and then she looked at Noah again, like he was the next patient she didn't have a chart for. That afternoon she tried a gentle question. "Noah, who is my daughter to you?" His jaw worked. "Rachel. She's my mom." Alice sat down like her knees went soft. She didn't make a sound, but I heard it anyway, the sound of a door in her heart opening onto a room she'd kept locked for years. Rachel. Our only child. The fight that ended everything. The day Alice told her we were moving into the mountains and Rachel said, "So you're just quitting being parents?" Alice tried to explain it wasn't quitting. It was choosing a different ending than the one the system was always selling. Bright hallways, scheduled showers, loneliness dressed up as care. Rachel didn't hear that. She heard abandonment. Then she moved, changed numbers, and for a long time all we had were returned letters and silence. Alice whispered, "She never told me." Noah's voice went small. "She told me you were selfish. That you ran away." There it was, the word that always stung. Ran away. As if you can run at 77. As if choosing peace is cowardice. I felt my own internal fork in the road. I could defend us, lay out every reason, every fear. Every night we'd lain awake imagining being pushed into a place where no one knows your name. Or I could do the harder thing. Listen to the kid who'd been raised on someone else's story. So I chose the second. "What did you need?" I asked him, "that made you come here?" His eyes flicked to his backpack again. "Too fast." "I needed quiet," he said. That answer was half true. A man learns to hear the half that's missing. After dinner, beans, cornbread, the kind of food that tastes like survival, I offered Noah my old radio headset to help Alice with her next call. He brightened at the task. He adjusted the mic like he'd done it before. He was quick with tech in a way I never will be. For a short stretch, I saw what Alice saw. A chance. A bridge. Then I noticed the way he kept his backpack close, even in our warm room. Like it was the only thing in his life that hadn't left him. When he finally went outside to the outhouse, I did something I'm not proud of. I checked the bag. I didn't dig like a thief. I told myself it was a safety check, the kind any grandfather would do if a strange kid showed up at his door in a storm. Inside were clothes, a phone with a cracked screen, and a folded stack of papers. Printouts, neat and official looking. Prescriptions. Names. Dosages. Some with signatures that didn't sit right, like someone had traced them. My stomach tightened. Not a gun. Not drugs. Something worse in a quieter way, something that could drag the law or sick people or desperate people right into our cabin. Alice stepped behind me. She didn't yell. She just said, "Jack, what did you find?" And I stood there with those papers in my hand, knowing my next choice would change everything. Protect the boy who called her grandma, or protect the life we built that so many other old souls depended on. The weather radio started screaming at 4:12 a.m., that harsh, metallic voice that doesn't care if you're sleeping, praying, or pretending your body is still young. Winter storm warning. Blizzard conditions. Travel not advised. The red light blinked on our kitchen counter like an accusation. I lay there listening to the wind load up against the cabin, and for a moment I forgot the papers in Noah's backpack, forgot the broken bridge to our daughter, forgot everything except one simple fact. When a storm is coming, the mountain collects what it's owed. I'm Jack, 79, and I've learned this the hard way. Nature doesn't negotiate and neither does time. If you're watching me right now, you already know the feeling. That quiet fear you don't say out loud because you're trying to be the steady one. The man who fixes things. The man who doesn't panic. I used to be that guy on the factory floor. Big shoulders, strong voice, union meetings, hands that didn't shake. Now my battles are smaller and meaner. Keeping the generator alive, keeping my breath calm when my chest tightens, keeping Alice from seeing how tired I really am. That morning, I watched her at the table with a mug of tea cooling between her hands. Noah sat across from her, eyes bouncing from her face to the storm-dark window. And those prescription printouts lay on the counter like a third person in the room. We hadn't talked much after I found them. Alice had taken a long breath, the kind she teaches other people to take when their blood pressure climbs. She looked at the papers, then at Noah. "These aren't yours," she said. Not a question. A statement. Noah swallowed. They're for people," he muttered. "People who can't get what they need." Alice's eyes didn't harden. They sharpened. "Do you understand what this is?" she asked. Noah's voice cracked on the edge of pride and fear. "It's not like that. I'm not selling drugs. It's paperwork. My friend's cousin prints forms. People pay. Is stupid okay? But I needed money." I felt my old anger rise, pure, protective, that steelworker heat. The part of me that wanted to say, "You brought trouble to my wife's doorstep. You don't get to drag the system into our life." But Alice did something that made my throat tighten. She didn't lecture him. She asked one small, surgical question. "Why did you need money so badly you risked ruining your life?" Noah stared at his hands. "My mom," he said. "Rachel. She's behind on rent. I messed up. I told her I'd help. That name hit the cabin like a new gust. Rachel. Our daughter. The word that turned every conversation into a cliff edge. I could see Alice's face split in two, one side the nurse, one side the mother. She looked at me and I knew what was coming without a word. A choice. Not a dramatic one with trumpets. The kind grown men make in silence. We could call someone. Sheriff. Social services. Do the responsible thing. Or we could keep this boy close, try to steer him back toward daylight before he fell off the road completely. My mind went to the clean, safe answer. Turn him in, protect our home, protect Alice's work, protect the old folks who rely on her calls. But then I pictured Noah at 17, carrying adult shame in a skinny body, walking up our mountain in a blizzard because he believed Alice's voice meant safety. I pictured Rachel at his age, stubborn, bright, furious, telling us we were selfish. And I felt the deepest truth of marriage. You don't just protect your house. You protect the person you built it with. Alice needed time with this boy, not chaos. Tom. So I chose a third path. We're not calling anyone today, I said, firm enough that Noah looked up. But we're not pretending this is nothing either. Noah blinked. So, what, you're gonna punish me? I shook my head. No. We're going to work. And you're going to tell the truth. Every piece of it. Alice let out a breath that sounded like relief she was trying to hide. The storm grew louder as if it didn't approve. By late morning, the internet stuttered to life for a few minutes at a time. Enough for Alice to keep her schedule? Barely. She sat at the laptop and spoke with the same steady voice she'd used for decades in hospital rooms. Calvin read me the label again. Irene, put your hand on your chest and count with me. Noah hovered, listening like a student. When the video froze, he didn't groan or roll his eyes. He went straight to the antenna rig, checking wires, trying to squeeze signal out of a sky full of snow. I watched him work and felt something complicated in my chest. Not the ache I usually get, but a softer pressure. Hope can feel like strain when you're not used to carrying it. Between calls, Alice pulled Noah aside. You said you found me through my videos, she told him. Then you know what I believe. Noah nodded slowly. That people shouldn't be alone, he said. Alice's eyes shone, but she didn't let tears fall. And that choices have consequences, she added. Noah's jaw tightened. I know. Then prove it, she said and handed him a list of names. Help me keep them connected today. You'd think a 17-year-old would resist. Instead he sat down, adjusted the mic, learned how Alice speaks to older folks. Slow, respectful, like every life deserves patience. He typed notes. He set reminders. He made a short clip from one of her calm explanations about blood pressure and uploaded it when the signal allowed. Watching him, I felt the old union part of me flare up. The belief that people can change when they're given a real role instead of a label. Outside, the wind turned vicious. Snow came sideways. Our world shrank to the cabin walls and the fragile thread of voices reaching in. Then right after lunch, my chest grabbed hard. Not a sharp pain, worse. A heavy clamp, like someone set a weight plate behind my sternum. I tried to hide it. Men like me always do. I stood up too fast, pretending I needed more wood. The room tilted. I caught the counter. Alice was still on a call, speaking gently to a woman in Ohio. Noah noticed first. His head snapped toward me. Jack, he whispered. Alice saw his face change and turned. Her eyes went straight to mine, and that's the thing about being married this long, she didn't need symptoms. She read the truth in the way I held my breath. She muted the mic with one finger. Sit, she said. Not asked. Ordered. I sat. The storm moaned around the cabin like it was laughing. Alice took my wrist, found my pulse, and I saw the nurse fully step forward, calm, efficient, controlled. But I also saw the wife behind her eyes, the woman who has held my hand through layoffs, funerals, and long nights when the world felt too big. Noah stood there, frozen, clutching the headset like it was the only tool he understood. What do I do? He asked. Alice looked at him, then at me. Another choice. Call for help now and risk the entire network of old folks who were waiting for her today, risk the storm, risk the road. Or manage me here, like she has managed strangers through screens, while keeping those promises alive. I could see the calculation in her face. And I hated that my body was forcing her to choose. I swallowed against the pressure and made my own decision. Keep the calls? I rasped. They're counting on you. Alice's eyes flashed. Jack, do it, I said softer. Don't let the storm take everything at once. She held my gaze for a beat, then nodded, once tight and fierce. Noah, she said, voice low. You stay with him. If he gets worse, you tell me immediately. Noah's hands shook, but he nodded like a soldier. Alice unmuted her mic. Her voice went warm again as if her heart wasn't in her throat. "Ma'am, I'm still here," she told Ohio. "We're going to take this step by step." For the next hour, Noah sat beside me, watching my face like he was afraid I'd disappear. Outside, the whiteout thickened. The radio warned again. The internet flickered and died. And then Noah's phone buzzed, one bar of service slipping through the storm like a whisper. He glanced at the screen and went pale. "It's my mom," he said. "Rachel." He looked from the phone to Alice, to me, trapped between worlds. "She's asking where I am." His voice broke. "If I tell her, she'll call someone. She'll send cops. She'll send me back. But if I don't know if she'll ever forgive me." I watched him, and I felt the mountain's real test wasn't the storm. It was this, whether a boy would run again or finally stay and face the truth. Noah stared at the door, at the blizzard beyond it, as if escape was still an option. Then he swallowed hard and said the words that made my stomach drop. "I can go," he whispered. "I can get to town. I can find help for you." Alice's head snapped up. "Noah, no." But he was already pulling on his jacket, eyes wild with desperate purpose. And in that moment, with my chest tight and the storm roaring, I realized the quiet life we chose was about to turn into something else entirely, and we might not be able to pull him back once he stepped outside. The sound I remember most isn't the wind. It's the click of our door latch after Noah pulled it shut from the outside, soft, final, like a judge's gavel. For one heartbeat the cabin went perfectly still, and then the storm threw itself at the walls again, as if it had been waiting for a weakness. I sat in my chair with my hand pressed to my chest, listening for the fate of a snowmobile that shouldn't have started, praying the mountain would spit him back onto our porch before it swallowed him whole. I'm Jack. 79. Steelworker hands, and a heart that has started bargaining with me when I ask too much of it. If you're watching this, you know you have to choose your strength minute by minute. That night, my strength wasn't chopping wood or fixing wires. It was staying calm enough to keep Alice calm. Alice didn't chase him. That's what surprised me. She moved fast, yes, but not frantic. She shoved her feet into boots, grabbed the handheld radio and a headlamp, then stopped at the threshold. Her eyes met mine and I understood. If she went out, she might not come back in. Not in time. Not in one piece. The mountain doesn't care that she's 77 and brave. "Noah," she shouted into the white dark. The wind stole the name. I had an internal choice right then, one that felt ugly. I could order her to stay like a man trying to control the only thing he still can. Or I could respect what she is, the kind of woman who has spent her whole life walking toward other people's emergencies. But there was another truth too. I wasn't just a patient on her couch. I was her husband. And if I went downhill, everything we built, this cabin, this quiet network of old souls, would fall like a bad stack of firewood. "Alice," I said, and my voice came out thinner than I wanted. "If you step out there, I lose you. If I lose you, I'm done. Come here." She froze. For a second her face looked like it did in the old days when doctors ignored her on a night shift, furious, helpless, determined. Then she came back inside and shut the door, leaning her forehead against it like she was absorbing the storm through the wood. "Don't make me choose," she whispered. "I'm not," I said. "We're choosing together." We did what older couples do when the world gets dangerous. We turned panic into small tasks. Alice checked my pulse, my breathing, my color. She made me chew an aspirin, then wrapped a blanket around my shoulders like she was wrapping time around me. I kept my eyes on her hands because hands tell the truth. Hers trembled once, then steadied. Noah's snowmobile had been parked behind the shed. I'd kept it running for emergencies because off-grid life is beautiful until it isn't. He must have found the key we hide in the coffee tin. Smart kid. Too smart. Alice tried the radio. Static. She tried my old flip phone. No bars. The storm had pulled the plug. That's when her other world, her clinic, started knocking from the inside. The laptop pinged weakly when the generator surged. A message from Irene in Manchester. "Alice? Are you there?" Then Calvin, "My dizziness is back." Then a new one I didn't recognize. "Please." My husband fell. Alice stared at the screen like it was a second blizzard. She looked at me. Then she looked at the door. Her choice wasn't between good and bad. It was between three good things she couldn't save at once. Her grandson, her husband, and the strangers who trusted her voice more than their own children. I saw the guilt grab her. I'd watched it for decades. The nurse guilt, the mother guilt, the wife guilt. It can eat a person alive. I thought of Rachel, our daughter, and the last thing she'd ever said to us on the phone. "You chose the mountains over me." That sentence had lived in our cabin like a cold draft. Now the boy carrying her blood was out in the storm, and the draft turned into a knife. So I made my decision even though it terrified me. Use the chain, I told her. Let them help each other. That's why you built it. But Noah. I'm here, I said. And I'm not leaving you. Do it. She swallowed hard and nodded. Then she became the calm center of a hurricane. She typed short, clear messages to the phone tree. Marlene in Maine, a retired paramedic in Idaho, a stubborn widow in Ontario who never missed a session. Call Irene. Check on Calvin. If someone falls, call local services. I'm in an emergency. Keep the circle moving. And in the middle of it, she kept touching my wrist, counting without counting. An hour passed like a lifetime. My chest eased, then tightened again. Alice kept glancing at me between messages, reading my face the way she reads a blood pressure cuff. Outside, the wind rose and fell like a giant animal sleeping and waking. The generator coughed once, then held. Then a new sound cut through it, faint at first, then unmistakable, an engine struggling against snow. Alice and I looked at each other with the same thought. Either Noah was coming back, or someone else was coming in. A headlamp beam swept across our window. A knock, harder than before. Not a kid's knock. A man's. Alice opened the door a crack. A silhouette in a parka leaned in, snow crusted on his hood. Ma'am, he shouted over the wind, we got a call from a woman in Maine. Said you run some kind of hotline. We found a boy on a broken sled, near frozen. He kept saying, tell Grandma I'm sorry. My throat closed. Alice's hand flew to her mouth, and for the first time in years I saw her look old, not weak, just human. The rescuer's eyes flicked to me, to the blanket, to the pills on the table. You two need to come now, he said. Road's bad but we can try. And there it was again, my internal fork. Stay and protect the life we chose, or leave and let the system pull us into its bright hallways and decisions. I pictured clipboards and rules, someone speaking slowly to us like we were children. I pictured Alice's laptop sitting dark on our table while voices waited and got nothing. Then I pictured Noah's lips turning blue in the snow. I looked at Alice and I realized the quiet life was never about staying put. It was about staying connected, when it cost you comfort. Tell him, I said, voice rough, we're coming. Alice squeezed my hand so hard it hurt, and somehow that pain felt like love. Then she grabbed her coat, shoved the notebook schedule into her pocket like a talisman, and we stepped toward the storm together. As the rescuer's light swallowed our doorway, I understood the emotional shift in my bones. The mountain hadn't taken Noah. It had taken our illusion that we could keep everything we love inside these walls. The first thing the hospital took from me wasn't my coat or my pocket knife. It was my dignity, quietly, politely, with a plastic wristband snapped around my arm while a young nurse called me sweetie, like I'd wandered in from a retirement brochure. The second thing it took was time. 1 minute Alice and I were following a rescuer's headlamp through a whiteout, and the next I was under fluorescent lights, watching Noah's boots drip melted snow onto linoleum while a doctor fired questions. Chest pain? History? Allergies? Do you live alone up there? I looked at Alice and I realized the storm had delivered us to the one place we always tried to avoid, where other people decide what's safe for the old. I'm Jack, 79, and I've never been afraid of hard work. I've been afraid of being filed away. Noah lay in the next bay wrapped in warmed blankets, his lips finally pink again. In the cabin he'd looked like a runaway with a plan. In that ER he looked like what he was, a kid carrying too much shame in a skinny body. Alice sat beside him, one hand resting on his forearm the way she'd steadied strangers for decades, the other tapping out short texts to her phone tree whenever her signal blinked alive. Even there, she was trying to keep other old souls from falling through the cracks. A doctor came to me, mid-50s, kind eyes, the type who has watched rural men wait too long. He listened to my chest, checked my numbers, and said the words I expected and hated. You had an episode. Not a heart attack, but close enough to scare me. If you stay off-grid, you need a plan for storms. Then the social worker arrived with a clipboard like it was a shield. She asked about our home, electricity, water, access roads. She asked about Alice's age, my medications, our support system. The whole time I felt the old steel plant anger crawling up my spine. Not at her exactly, at the machine that turns people into risks and problems to be solved. That's when Rachel walked in. Our daughter looked the way she always did in my memory, sharp, busy, guarded, but there were new lines around her mouth, lines that didn't come from laughing. She didn't hug Alice. She didn't slap me. She just stood at the foot of the bed and stared at Noah like she was trying to decide if he was real. Mom, Noah croaked. His voice broke and I saw Rachel's armor shift. She looked at Alice. So it's true, she said, too controlled. You've been broadcasting from the woods. Alice's chin lifted. Helping, she replied. One word. No apology. The room tightened. And right there I faced my internal choice, the hardest one yet. I could let pride drive the wheel, dig in, make this a war. Our freedom versus her judgment, our mountains versus her city. Or I could do what an old man does when he wants a family more than he wants to be right. Soften first. So I swallowed my pride and spoke like a father, not a defendant. Rachel, I said, we didn't leave to punish you. We left because we were scared of ending up forgotten. We thought we were choosing dignity. We didn't realize we were also choosing distance. Her eyes flicked down. For a second she looked young again. You chose distance, she whispered back. I had a baby and I didn't even know how to tell you without hearing you say you couldn't come. Alice's hands trembled. Then she did what she always does, turned pain into a step. Tell me now, she said. I'm here. The social worker cleared her throat, trying to pull us back to policy. We need a plan, she said. Home health visits, safer housing, perhaps assisted living. No, Noah cut in, voice rough but firm. He pushed himself upright. No, they saved me. She saved people like my mom, people who feel alone. You can't just take them away. Rachel stared at her son like she'd never heard him sound grown. The doctor rubbed his temple. I'm not trying to take anyone, he said. I'm trying to keep you alive. That's when Alice opened her phone and played a voicemail. Marlene from Maine. A shaky voice. Alice, because of you I didn't go to that place. I stayed in my home. I slept. Thank you. Then another. Calvin in Arizona. Your advice kept me from calling an ambulance for panic. You talked me through it. The room went quiet in a new way, not tense but humbled. Even the social worker's pen stopped. I saw the shift and I grabbed it. We're not against help, I said. We're against being erased. Give us support without taking our life. Rachel's shoulders sagged. How? She asked, and it wasn't an argument. It was a plea. Noah looked at me, then at Alice. I can stay part-time, he said. I can do school online for a while. I can be there when storms hit. I can help with the tech. I messed up. Let me fix something. Alice's eyes filled, but she blinked it back. Only if it's legal, she said gently. No shortcuts. No fake papers. No running. Noah nodded hard. No running. The doctor sighed, then gave a small nod. If you agree to remote monitoring, simple sensors, a better generator plan, a guaranteed contact list, and if the county schedules check-ins, I can support that. The social worker, to her credit, shifted too. We can explore a caregiver arrangement, she said, and a rural telehealth pilot. It's unconventional, but possible. Rachel took a step toward Alice. Not a hug. Not yet. But close enough that their sleeves touched. I was angry, she whispered. I told him you ran away. But I think you were trying to survive. Alice exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for 10 years. So were you, she said. A week later we went back up the mountain. Slower, with a county truck behind us and a new number taped by the phone. The cabin looked the same, but it wasn't. A better generator sat outside, a small box of medical sensors waited on the table, and Noah's laptop sat beside Alice's old one like a second heartbeat. He'd even labeled the coffee tin where the spare key lives. Emergency only. Tonight, Alice is on a call again. I'm in my chair listening, my hand resting over my chest, not in fear but in gratitude. On the wall behind her is a paper calendar with names in neat handwriting. And beside it, a message Noah printed and taped up from a woman in Ontario. Is it too late to start over far from the city? Alice glances at me and I feel that quiet romance again, the kind that doesn't need touching to be real. I pick up the mic and answer, speaking to the woman but also to you. It's never about how far from the city, I say. It's about not being far from each other. Outside, the snow falls softly and for once the mountain sounds like it's letting us stay.